Olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית olam. Joan, would you come up and read in the middle of page 165? I have the book open here, so.
Yeah, okay. Oops. God's presence to suffice our spirits. God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will.
Thank you. Okay, we've reached the midpoint of our service, the tefillah, the standing prayer. It is on page, starts on page 164. We will chant together through page 170. And then between pages 170 and 180, you may either silently read the prayers in the book or pray the prayers in your hearts and minds. When you are finished with your prayer, you may be seated, because I didn't tell you yet that I'm going to ask you to stand now. Now, please rise for the Amidah, the tefillah. Ananananana Adonai, Ananananana Svatai Tiftach, Ananananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha, Ananananana Adonai, Ananananana Svatai Tiftach, Ananananana Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanurah El Elyon Gomel Hamsadim Tovim V'Konei Ha'ol V'Zoker Hazdei Avot V'Imamot U'Mevi Geula Livnei B'Negem L'man Shemo V'Yahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Michayei HaKol Atarav L'Hoshiach Mori Hatav Michakel Chaim V'Chesed Michayei HaKol V'Rachamim Rabim Somech Nofli V'Rofei Kolim Umatir Asurim Umekayeh Emunato Lishenei Achar Niframocha Ta'al Gilurot Umidal Me'elah Melech Le'mid Umekayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye ha'ol. Ata kadosh, kadosh, ukadoshim b'kol yom v'chaluka selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Will you please join with me at the bottom of page 180? Yehiyu leratzon imrei fi, v'hegion libi lifanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai my rock, Adonai my rock, and my redeemer, Adonai my rock, Adonai my rock. O say shalom bimroma, O say shalom bimroma. Say shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth. Amen. We now turn to page 371 for the Mishaberach prayer. There are those in our lives who suffer from illness of body or illness of spirit. The Mishaberach, a prayer of healing and hope, petitions God to grant healing to those in need. I will read the names of those in our community that we know need our prayers, and if any of you in the pews have names you would like to add after I read these, you will be able to read them. Elaine Kaufman, Joyce Salinas, Svetlana Lozovic, Jean-Pierre Shalouche, Joyce August Shalouche, Samantha Shalouche, Stacy Roberts Orr, Rita Bregman, Susan Winsberg, Myra Litvak, Karen Harris, Susan Nisbet, Dee Foster, Margaret Rowland, Claudia Coleman, Janice Remedios, Bob Garfinkel. Are there any other names? Genevieve? Did I hear someone else? Thank you. Okay, please join me in the Mishaberach prayer in the middle of page 371. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha La'ima Imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu Mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Okay, once again, Shabbat Shalom. This month of June is observed in this country as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. All of us are encouraged to stand up for our queer neighbors in their quest for the basic rights afforded to our citizens by the Constitution. The Stonewall riots, also called the Stonewall Uprising, began in the early hours of June 28, 1969, when the New York City police raided the Stonewall Inn, a gay club located in New York City's Greenwich Village. The raid sparked a riot among bar patrons and neighborhood residents as police roughly hauled employees and patrons out of the bar, leading to 6 days of protests and violent clashes with law enforcement outside the bar. The Stonewall riot served as a catalyst for the modern gay rights movement in the United States and around the world. A slew of new activist organizations formed, a few of which planned the first gay pride parades in America to coincide with the first anniversary of the uprising. Eventually, June was designated as Pride Month in recognition of the Stonewall riots' significance in LGBTQ plus history. And throughout the last decade or so, especially since the Supreme Court's decision in favor of same-sex marriage, Pride had become more mainstream. Unfortunately, in more recent years, the Christian right has been trying to turn our country against the LGBTQ plus community with transphobic and homophobic rhetoric, and even trying to overturn Obergefell, the Supreme Court decision that allowed same-sex couples to marry. Their efforts at undermining the rights and dignity of LGBTQ plus people is very reminiscent of the actions of those trying to prevent equal rights to all, no matter skin color or ethnic background. Today also is Juneteenth, commemorating the day on June 19th, 1865, when the formerly enslaved people in Texas finally found out that they were free, 3 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Of course, just because they were no longer enslaved, it did not mean that the black people were treated as equal to white Americans. They had to struggle for almost a century for the rights that all Americans are supposed to be guaranteed by the Constitution. One of the ways they did this was by protests and marches. This week, the Jewish community reads Korach, Numbers 16:1 to 18:32. In Parshat Korach, we read the story of Korach's rebellion, leading a group of 250 community members to revolt against Moses and Aaron's leadership. Korach frames his rebellion as an act of solidarity and allyship with regular Israelites, but many commentators understand it as motivated by his own personal desire for power. And Adonai obviously was offended because God punished the rebels with death. Jake Green of Moment magazine says, their insurgency is a little ambiguous. Perhaps the rebellion is just about the change in duties of the Israelites, from every tribe to having a role in tending the Mishkan, the tabernacle, to it just being the Levites. Or maybe the uprising is just about the angst of the Israelites. They may simply be antsy over the extended timeline of their journey to Israel. But beyond that, their rebellion was probably intersectional. It was likely addressing a few even competing things. all targeted at Moses and Aaron, God's appointed leaders of the Israelites at a tenuous time in their journey. Excuse me. The protest's ultimate grievance may not have been obvious, but Korach's delivery is fierce. He surrounds himself with 250 of his fellow conspirators, and he delivers the forceful line, "You have gone too far, for all the community are holy, all of them, and Adonai is in their midst. Why then do you raise yourselves above God's congregation?" he says to Moses and Aaron. He says, all of the community are holy, all of them. That should be a beautiful message, right? Especially for Pride Shabbat. In theory, yes, but it doesn't take much more of the story to see why we can't end our understanding there. As the Parshat says, God's ultimate response to Korach and his associates was to cause the ground to open up and swallow them all, sending them to their graves. So what's going on here? Korach's message seems like one of acceptance on the surface. It echoes a paraphrased B'Tselem Elohim, that everyone is holy and made in the image of the divine. But that's not exactly what he's doing. And we learn of that from the first two words in Parshat Korach. The Parshat starts with the words, Vayikach Korach, and Korach took. The text tells us that Korach is not a giving person, but rather he's someone who takes. Korach's message is not so beautiful. More likely, it's full of jealousy, a message that actually ignores the beauty of everyone in the community. He takes the concept of B'Tselem Elohim and he twists it for his own purpose. Rabbi Dr. Bradley Shavit Artson, Dean at Ziegler, helps us understand why this message misses the mark. He says, it is difficult for anyone who is passionate about democracy not to become stirred by Korach's powerful message. If we fundamentally believe all people are equal, then why should any one person or group have special authority or distinction? But the fact of the matter is that we are not all equal. We should all be treated as equals, of course, but the beauty of humanity is that every single person is different from the next. We're all made in the divine image, but we're all unique. By saying all of Israel is holy, Korach misses the fundamental point that we all have something special to bring to the table, something that makes an individual stand out amongst a diverse community. In Pirkei Avot, Hillel teaches us, do not separate yourself from the community. Queer people learn the importance of this concept from early on in their lives. LGBTQ people are taught to navigate the world differently than their peers, questioning their instincts instead of embracing them. They seek like-minded peers not only because of shared interest, hobbies, and activities, the ways all humans connect, but because they seek safety. Most of you know that I have an adult child who is a transgender woman. She realized this about herself when she was an adult. As a teen, she identified as a gay male. When she came out to her father and me as gay, I immediately began to look for a teen group for her to join. I wanted her to be with people who had the same worldview as she did. I wanted her to feel socially comfortable. Supporting her was a natural reaction for me. She was my child. And when she told us she was trans, I asked her if there was anything she needed me to do, besides using her new name and pronouns, of course. The last few years have been spent in navigating government bureaucracy, getting her name and gender legally changed, getting a new birth certificate, Social Security, ID. She is very fortunate to have a supportive group of friends and family, including people in the LGBTQ community. She and others like her need this community support because they are often targeted with hate by people who choose not to understand that who a person is romantically attracted to or what gender they identify as most accurately does not define their entire being. Jake Green writes, as we celebrate Pride Month, I hope you'll remember the lesson we can learn from Korach. In his seemingly noble attempt to fight for equality, Korach ignores what makes up the diversity of our holy community, and he actually endangers those in the community who are different. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, we are approaching the end of our service. Please turn to page 586 for the Aleinu. And if you are observing a yahrzeit this week, please come to the ark to open the ark. And when the ark is opened, we will rise. Okay, join with me in Aleinu. Aleinu v'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'ateit gedula v'yotzer reshit, shelo asanu v'voye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkenu kanem, v'gor aleinu v'chol ha'monav. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלך המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר וחיה אדוני למלך על כל האורץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Okay, you may be seated. You got it. Okay. On page 596 at the top of the page, when cherished ties are broken and the chain of love is shattered, only trust and the strength of faith can lighten the heaviness of the heart. At times, the pain of separation seems more than we can bear. But if we dwell too long on our loss, we embitter our hearts and harm ourselves and those about us. The psalmist said that in his affliction, he learned the law of God. And in truth, grief is a great teacher when it sends us back to serve and bless the living. We learn how to counsel and comfort those who, like ourselves, are bowed with sorrow. We learn when to keep silent in their presence and when a word will assure them of our love and concern. Thus, even when they are gone, the departed are with us, moving us to live as, in their higher moments, they themselves wish to live. We remember them now. They live in our hearts. They are an abiding blessing. We join families in our community in remembering the loved ones whom we have lost recently and at this time in years past. May their memories be for an eternal blessing. Is anyone observing Shiva, the first week of mourning? For Shaloshim, the first month of mourning, our heartfelt condolences go to the families in our congregation who are grieving the passings of their loved ones in the last 30 days. Rabbi Stuart Kelman, Carl Goldberg, and Steve Corman. Is anyone else mourning the loss of someone in the last 30 days? We extend our condolences to the families in our congregation who are grieving the passing of these loved ones in the past year. Bert Litvak, Charles Fleischer, Victoria Van Wert, Noreen Silverman, Rochelle Ava Sherman, Carolyn Carey Tertis, Stuart Blumsack, Eleanor Ellie Cohen, and Steele Philippek. Is anyone else observing a loss in the last year? And then the yard sites we are remembering for years past: Violet Cantor Schwartz, Lorraine Rabinovitz, R. Jeffrey Lustig, Betty Miller, Abraham Kaufman, Daniel Garfinkel, Gertrude Fertig, Anne Green, and Gail Carlo. We also are remembering all those who have lost their lives in recent acts of violence. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved. Okay, we turn to page 598 and rise if you are able for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'yalma divra kirusei v'yamlich malchusei v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dekol beis Yisrael v'agala v'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach Le'olam Olmei Olmaya. Yisbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yisroman v'yisnaseh. V'yishadar v'yishaleh v'yishalal shemei d'kudisha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchasa v'shirasa. Tush b'chasa v'nechemasa. Da'amiran v'elma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated, and now I'd like to call up our board rep, who's also my husband, to take us through the announcements for tonight.
I have the great honor of thanking myself for the AV. But beyond that, I want to thank my wife, Allison Harris, for leading tonight's service, and to Skip Soskin for greeting everyone at the door. And especially I want to thank Jerry Rabinowitz in memory of his mother, Lorraine, who's hosting the Oneg tonight in her honor. Thank you. Another point, if you want to watch the service again, I direct you to the Facebook channel. There was a technical glitch on YouTube that had nothing to do with me. But there's about half of the services on YouTube, but the whole thing is on Facebook, so if you want to see that. And of course, happy Juneteenth. Then on Monday, June 22nd, we're going to have the in-person book club discussion of The Rabbi Finds Her Way with author Robert Schoen. So that's a special event. And then there will be a special Pride Month webinar on Jewish resilience on Wednesday, June 24th. And then I strongly recommend that you take a look at the TI Times for all the events that are going on. But for those of you who are like me, next Friday, Friday the 26th, we have guest Rabbi Emily Losbin helping us lead the service. And then I want to strongly recommend you, if you're like me and have tons of paper stored all over your house and you want to get rid of it, there's a shredding event here in the parking lot where the gas station used to be. And you can help yourself that way. And then on Monday, June 29th, Dave's Swingtime Band Concert. And you can make a donation to that if you want. I understand it's a lot of fun. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Lee. I think I said he was my husband and the board rep, but I don't think he said his name. For the two new people in the room, Lee Harris. Okay, we are going to conclude our service on page 646 with Lechilach. I liked that one because it's about, okay, I have the wrong page here because it isn't that page. There it is on page 645. It was a typing error. Because I just like it because it's like about your journey through life. Lechilach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechilach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. Lechilach, Lechilach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechilach, to the place that I will show you. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'chila. L'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'simchat chayim, l'chila. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Shabbat shalom to everyone. We now are invited all to go into the social hall for the oneg. We will start with Kiddush and Motzi. So please, everyone, join us in the social hall.